you. So we looked at names for gods. We've been looking at names for gods and God throughout each of these verses. And the one for verse 4 is Yahweh Sham, Sham. There's a caret over the A, which means comfort and it means presence. It means there. When it was Moses' turn to lead the people, this is way before he turned it over to Joshua. When it was Moses' turn to lead the people, he was nervous. He was super nervous about leaving these people. Let's look at what God said to him. I love this. Exodus 33, 12 through the end. Moses said to the Lord, "You've been telling me lead these people, but you've not let me know whom you will send with me. You've said, I know you by name, and you have found favor with me. If you're pleased with me, teach me your ways so that I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people." The Lord replied, "My presence will go with them, and I will give you rest." That word, my presence, is Yahweh Shammah. The Lord is there, my presence, and my presence will give you rest. And then verse 15. Then Moses said to him, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up there from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth?" And the Lord said to Moses, "I will do the very thing you have asked, because I am pleased with you and I know you by name." Then Moses said, "Now show me your glory." And the Lord said, "I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But," he said, "you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live." Then the Lord said, "There's a place near me where you may stand on a rock. When my glory passes by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand until I've passed by. Then I will remove my hand and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen." So my name is my presence. I am there. Yahweh Shammah. I am there. I just think that is so cool that Moses was terrified of leading the people, and God said, "My presence is there." And then when Moses passes the leadership on to Joshua, it's the same thing. He passes the leadership on and he says, "My presence is there. I will go with you." And he knew that firsthand. In the wilderness, the Israelites had the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. They had God's presence there. They could see it, and that comforted them in this time of wandering. Yahweh Sham. Let's look at Ezekiel 48. God's presence. Not only does he have a rod and a staff which comforts, but his presence is there. You are with me, and that's why I fear no evil, going through the valley of the shadow of death. Oh, this is so good. Ezekiel 48, verse, let's see. Oh, right at the end. Let's see what's happening here. Jerusalem's gates. Each of them was named for a tribe of Israel. There was the gate named Judah. There was a gate named Levi. The gates had dimensions, and that's what Ezekiel is describing here. And then he says in verse 35, the name of the city, we're talking about Jerusalem, The name of the city from that time on will be the Lord is there. Yahweh Shammah. Yahweh Sham. He is there. That's a name for God. And I had the privilege in class of having 4 women in the class who've been to Jerusalem, 3 on the most recent trip that our church took, and 1 had taken a trip there years ago. But I asked them, when you were in Jerusalem, did that indeed touch your heart? That feeling, that knowledge, that presence of God being there? And they said, oh my gosh, they couldn't stop crying. It was such a heavy presence. Jerusalem is not your common city. There is something very special there. And what it is that's there is Yahweh Sham, God's presence there. That's to be the name of the city, Yahweh Sham, which is supposed to be funny. We don't get it because we don't know Hebrew, but it's very similar. There's a word play that happens here. Yahweh Shammah sounds very much like Yerushalayim. I can't even say it. Forgive me. I'm just killing it, killing the pronunciation. But there's a word play here between Jerusalem and Yahweh Sham, being God there. The Lord is there. Okay, so we've been traveling all around here with these different scriptures. What's the point here? The point is that each of us have known a valley of the shadow of death. We have traveled through it. Some of us many times, some of us not very often, but each of us as human beings understand this concept of traveling through a very dangerous place, a place where death is very real, where disappointment is very real, where fear is very real. Henry Ward Beecher, who was an American pastor during the Civil War days, and he was an anti-slavery activist, he said that the 23rd Psalm is the nightingale of psalms. What does that mean? The nightingale sings most sweetly when it is the darkest time of the night. Isn't that beautiful? We're told not to fear walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Why? Because he's with us. He is our power in our presence. He is the power in our presence. He has weapons to protect us. So what are his weapons? The rod and thy staff. And he has given you offensive tools. He has given you defensive protection. And we looked at Ephesians 6:10, which talks about suiting up with the full armor of God. The only offensive weapon that we have is the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God. That's our only offensive tool. The rest is defensive, that protect us from the onslaught. So I asked for the women to give me examples of how they use the sword of the Spirit as their weapon, and it was powerful. We talked about the rod of his mouth, which is used to punish. God, do you want to look at that? Isaiah 11. Let's just look at it quickly. We should. The rod of his mouth. The rod which was used as punishment, it can be used to kill. It can be used to count. This rod, Isaiah 11, 1 through 4. This is a prophetic word about Jesus, of course, we know that. But look at what it says. A root will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his root, a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, a spirit of wisdom and of understanding, a spirit of counsel and power, a spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. He will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips, he will slay the wicked. So what? How does verse 4 apply to you in the here and now? If he is your comfort, you fear no evil when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, because he has the rod and he has the staff, and his presence, the good shepherd, is with you. What else do you need? My extended translation of verse 4 is, likewise, even when I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I will have no fear of the evil around me, because my shepherd, my provider, my healer, my righteousness, my comfort has a rod and he has a staff, and he is there, Yahweh Sham, and that comforts me.